tonight we've got Eloi Gómez. So welcome to the show, Eloi. How are you doing?
Thank you for hosting me, having me here. Pleasure.
We are going to be talking about his company, Elois' company, who's hailing from Valencia, and obviously taking advantage of the interconnection of this new reality in which we're not meeting in person, but interviewing somebody who's not that far away. But obviously, you know, we're trying to broaden our horizons, right? Before we start, Eloi, let me take us back a little bit to your background, to kind of like childhood. Run us through who you are, where you grew up, and what brought you to being here.
Well, as I said, thank you for having me here. Yet Valencia is like the little brother of Barcelona, so we're even more close. We were mentioned before that the good part of being Valencia is a couple of degrees better than being Barcelona, and also a bit more sunny here. So, right. Well, enjoying the time at least here. Well, I born and raised in Santiago de Compostela. So I'm from Galicia, north of Spain. I came from a small family. My parents have been working for public administration all of their lives, and they been to a typical school in Santiago. And at one point when I was 18, I get a grant to play for basketball in León, also north of Spain, and to study food and science technology. So I was looking to something that really motivates me, and have been always very passionate about what we can do with technology and food at this point in my life. And it was not clear for me to go to biology, biotechnology. And I found this degree that was food and science technology. So I decided to jump into it. And the best part of decide that is that my colleague, so the one who was in the same room in the college, was Ruben Muñoz, who has been my co-founder for 10 years. And just close to us in the next door was Adrian. We have been also together for 10 years. So we met at the college. We had a lot of fun, and we have created 3 companies together. So we created our first company in León. We were selling T-shirts online. Typical T-shirts. So, well, it was ULE, ULE, 19069. That was the year of the University of León started. So we were focusing on merchandising for the University of León. Then we expanded to other universities. At the beginning, very focused, and try to replicate, to emulate this typical Harvard or UCLA merchandising that also looks so fancy in the films, but in Spain we don't have that, you know. So we create that concept, and we're selling online. We have been lucky enough to sell the company after a couple of months, and it was good, because if not, we will have some problems with the brand and property rights and all of this stuff. So it was good. And after that, we started also with a second parent. Again, 3 of us together. We started a marketplace to connect end consumer with a small food producers of north of Spain. Mm-hmm. We evolved, we pivoted to a model where we were managing basically containers from Spain to South America. So something like Flexport. So we were optimizing containers for shipping. And also we have been lucky enough to sell it. And after that, we came to Jeff. So where we are today. So 10 years doing different businesses, studying food and science technology. So nothing to be with what I'm doing today.
So you never worked in the corporate side of the industry, right?
Well, you know, for 1 month, I was working on a basketball campus, these summer camps for basketball for 1 month. And also worked for 1 month with a grant in the university doing research. So, well, all right. I don't know.
So never, no Accenture, no Deloitte, no banking, no insurance, no serious jobs, like where a lot of people would put it, right? No serious jobs. All right. Now that's very interesting. Actually, you raised 2 very good points that I wanted to touch on, because I think they're very interwoven in your company culture, right? One of them is basketball, because you had a grant, right, to play basketball, and it seems that the way your partners and your employees describe you as you're a very good team player. And actually, that's something that you must have taken from basketball, right? So what other values do you think you've taken from sport and you brought them into your company culture?
Well, having all my life playing sports, and basketball has made something different in my life. I was lucky enough to play with amazing players, and also with amazing people. But what make us be a good team, and with Santiago de Compostela, with Rosalía de Castro, with Galicia, with the teams that we work, we always deliver better results because of one thing, or the one team value. So we always try to play as one team. In basketball, some people look at the statistics about how many points did you score, how many rebounds did you take, how many passes did you make. So all of these things are cool, but more important than nothing is to be a team player. And I was a point guard, that I was a team player, And when I was doing better for my team, was not the days that I score more points or take more rebounds, was the days that teams wins. And this was a great learning. So first thing is make the team win, and then is you and your things. And second is never enough. So it's also one value that we have at Jeff, one team and never enough. And it has been always to improve yourself, challenge you. Always better teams than your team. It's always people with more skills than you. I'm quite small. I'm less than 180, so I was never the most athletic. I was never the best scorer. And I just was a great competitor. I used my mind to compete. So this never enough value, I think it drives a lot for us.
Actually, yeah, I don't know, because I've never met you in person, but you look like taller, actually. If you say that, I was imagining like you're one of those like super tall people. I don't know why.
I hope so.
Yeah. So then maybe because you didn't grow enough, you decided to pursue your career in entrepreneurship and not basketball, right?
Well, it's a good excuse, but the truth is I was not good enough.
All right, let's talk about the other thing. Like, one thing is just basketball, right? And I can see it because I've also I've been like a shit player in every sport. So I've played every sport, but I've been shit at everyone and every single one that I've tried. But at least, there's a lot of value there. I've taken a lot of, not only values, but the team spirit, collaboration, the effort, training every day, because that creates compounding effect. But that's something I've also found in volunteering, right? I created a couple of associations where I had to volunteer. So it's pro bono work and all of that. So all of that, I think that has given me more like a community-oriented vision for my company or for a startup brand. So definitely what we experienced in the past is something that we can bring to our companies, and that definitely shapes us as a person, right? So that's one thing. The sports thing is very, very interesting, how you have managed to bring it and import it into your culture. The second is, you mentioned that you have been partners with your friends. And that's not very usual, because in the ABC of entrepreneurship, they say never create business with your friends or your family. But it seems that it's working well for you. And this is something I can relate to. My two partners at MarsBased, my company, are my best friends since my childhood, right? So, but we know that we are an outlier. Normally people don't do it that way, and they become friends with their business partners, not the other way around, right? What's your vision on this, and what do you think it's helped for you to sustain that friendship over the years?
It's a very good question.
It's very long too. I'm famous for my long questions.
No, but I think that, it's not easy, first of all. So it's not easy to be with your friends, because you know each other very well, and sometimes you go a bit farther. You maybe, when you are working with other people that you don't have this close in relationship, first, things can end in the office, and second, you never will go farther. When you have friends, things never end in the office, and things will always go farther. So you have to understand that. So if you want to work with your friends, you have to understand that. So we have lived together also for years. We have been discussing for the companies for weekends. And what we have been evolving is that, for example, we are three, but we have been together. Now I'm the only one who have an executive position. Ruben and Adrian have different positions, very important positions, but not executive. So first is understand which is our role into the company, long-term perspective. And second, we have been always to speak with zero bullshit, one of our values also. So when we have to say something, okay, Ruben, Adrian, Elois. So, we work in the same way, and we have been launching together, I don't know, for the last 10 years, almost each Saturday when we are in the same city. So we try to always prioritize our personal relationship more than our business relationship. And I think this has been a key for the success. And when bad times comes, and it will always come, you can have this open discussion. Guys, we have this problem. How to address it? So I never fight alone. So this is something that I'm very lucky.
One thing that's a very good point. But one thing that I really learned by working with my two best friends, right, is that sometimes I don't get to ask questions or suggest things because I already know what they think, because I've known them since we were 10, right? I know Xavi's not gonna like this. So, but maybe if you're not working with friends, you are not so restricted and you're not so hindered by these preconceptions. So are you also finding these, and what other things do you think it's affecting your day-to-day business relationship with them?
Well, at one point, it was not sustainable to work with us on daily day. So we felt that it was not good for us, to have this that close relationship because of what you mentioned, because of the tension that just the day creates. But what is good for us is we're not working together, we not report to us. We have to take a difficult decision, we sit together. We have to speak about something, we use one of our weekends, so we have to speak it. So we reduce a lot to be on the daily iterations. So we are not working on daily things, and this have helped us a lot. Yeah.
And how about because the other thing is there's a lot of politics, right? So before we get into how did you manage to downgrade your best friends into non-executive people in the company? Obviously joking here, but maybe I don't know to what extent you can talk about that. But it's also how do you do the politics between, because you were 3, right? And yep. I'm in the same position. There's never going to be a tie because there's always 2 against 1 usually. So before approaching meetings, one thing that normally I do is try to test the waters of the temperature of each one of them and see which one can be on my side when I need to propose something risky, something like that, and try to side with that person so that when I go into the meeting, I have an upper hand on the other part. I know it sounds a little bit like that, but it's politics at the end of the day, right? How do you do it in your case? How did you do it when they were both in the executive level?
So I have no politics with them. So we just go, boom. So this is what they think, guys. And the point is that most of the cases where...
Does it work though?
Yeah, that's what it's great. Yeah, because, when we have something to discuss, it usually is something that's very statically, and we have to be aligned to make it happen. Then in the daily decisions, each of us can take our decisions because we trust each other. So these daily things is what really makes problems, But big things, and when we sit together to decide about one big thing, I always remember be aligned. So maybe it's 10% that we take this approach, take the other, but the main thing, the main important decision, we were always aligned. Just speak it, have one dinner, be together, speak about it. Okay, what do you think? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's go.
All right. And this is pretty much the other part of the question, which I probably haven't remarked enough. It's how did you downgrade your your business partners? I mean, how does that happen? Because I think that's a normal part in a startup, right? At a certain point, you create your company with your friends and so on and so forth. At a certain point, investors come along. You need to hire more experienced people. Maybe some of them are great for the company. They can be a really good VP product, VP engineering, whatever, but they cannot be part of the executive part, right? How do you take this conversation with them? So
I think is what is first. So company is first. So first of all, we are shareholders. So the best thing for our future is that this company will go amazing. So we understand this point. Since the moment we decide to have external investors, we are playing to try to increase the value of the company and create value to our entrepreneurs and our customers. First is the company. So I think in the future, probably other guy will come and take my position and will be good for the company. So we have always this clear. It is always a conversation to have but we have been always ready to take these steps and take these decisions and being just very honest. First is the company, have the conversation. In case Ruben and Adrian always make it easier. They are 150% involved in the company. Just understand what's your role, what can you add. We came from university with no experience. Well, yes, we ran two companies, but it was not the same like it's just today because of the size, because of the headcount of the countries, complexity. So, I think it's something normal and just try to make it normal. Okay, we are shareholders. The most important for us is that the company keep working, keep creating value. So first thing, we are shareholders.
And one of you, that's a very good point, because I think it's very aligned with what you were mentioning previously, with the values that you brought from sport. There's we're all a team, and all these things that you have mentioned early on. So I wanted to ask specifically, right? You have a very, very distinguished working culture in the company, and not only that, you're pretty famous, I've been told, in Valencia for your parties pre-COVID, obviously, right? I'm terribly sad that I've never been invited to one. So I hope that changes once we're back to normal.
We'll change. No doubt about it. We'll change.
I heard that they were pretty epic, right? So how did company culture evolve from day one until what you've gotten? Let's stop before the pandemic, right? So the first years of the company, as you grow the team, you make the first hires, you bring in external investment. How did that come about?
Well, that has been a life. So, we started three together, and we evolved to more than 500 people in less than 3 years. So it was crazy. Yeah. And not just people, also nationalities. So 80% of the people is not from Spain. We have to manage to have people who don't speak English with people who just speak English in a Spanish company. So lots of things. Southeast Asia people, Latin American people, Northern Africa, Southeast Europe. Wow, crazy. But so we have to find some things to keep us aligned. And for me, were two things. So one, the values. We're very clear about the values, about the culture that we want into the company. Second was to use people who really show our values and help them to promote. So we promote a lot of people who start to working with us and being like the face of the company. So being really leaders and showing what Jeff wants to create together. And the parties, that was the question you mentioned, was a new opportunity to bring all us together. So when you are growing a lot, you get to a point where you don't know each other. You just don't know how many people has been on board last week. So these things happens. So how you keep alive this culture, this alignment. So we decided to host almost since the beginning, each quarter, day where we show what was the result, what are the next objectives. So very focused on the business, where are we doing this, explain, have some example, half of the day. And the other half of the day was, bring a disco to the place.
To forget about everything.
Just have fun, just chill. And this was the moment where people speaks about what they really think, what they are concerned, meet with other people. So use these parties to have this moment to, okay, this quarter has ends, let's celebrate, let's have some rest, and let's be back, and let's meet each other. So I think these moments create lots of momentum. And also each Thursday of the month, we have free beers for most of the people. These moments were key to have the company and the cultural life. If we weren't for this, doesn't matter all the things that we have done, we will never able to have this level of compromise from the employee perspective and this level of culture.
I mean, I always told my previous employers, I was like, hey, if you give me beer, I'm going to be with you forever, right? So I totally can relate to that. But no, not just joking. But I see your point. I see where you're coming from. However, there's one thing that doesn't really make sense to me, because normally what is understood, what is the consensus, is that the company culture breaks in high growth, right? So companies, when they go into like hyper growth mode and like hockey stick and whatever, it's very hard to keep company culture aligned, because you're having new people every day. There's less and less time to train them. There's probably not sufficient documentation. Documentation is not up to date. There tends to be a lot more employee turnover and burnout. precisely because there's a lot of like, oh, now we're growing, we don't have time to do this, right? We need to hire and hire, and at the expense of most of the times company culture. So how did you manage it apart from alcohol?
So
because that helps too.
Yeah, absolutely. But alcohol, for example, was not allowed in the official parties. But
then don't invite me. Don't invite me. I take that back.
But after the official, it's a non-official, so you can go to the non-official.
All right. I see that. Okay.
No, but okay. These parties were an excuse to have people together. What I have learned is that what breaks the culture is not growth enough. So,
all right, that's interesting. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, when you're growing like crazy, and when you are really working together to create something bigger, culture is not a problem. Yeah, it's a problem of, hey, no, these documents are right. Yeah, but people is so pushing and so enjoying what they are doing that they are just working for the dream. When you start to grow less is when problems appear. So something that was good, now it's not that good. Someone that was performing amazing, now is not performing that good. So
why? Because people get worried that we're not growing enough, and maybe things are not going well.
No, and start to think about, okay, so what are we doing not good enough? Maybe we're growing too fast. Maybe we didn't hire well. But these questions didn't happen when you were growing enough. So I think if you really want to create something big, you have to be very focused on how to grow. If you grow and you have good values, culture will not be a problem. If you don't grow, culture will be a problem because your culture is based on the growth. If you want people to grow, if you want entrepreneurs to grow, your main problem will be not growing. It changes if you have a different culture. If you look at our values, is never enough, zero bullshit, one team, all in. So all in is one of our values. So it's a culture aligned to growth. If you are not growing, is when you have problems. So we are trying always to figure out how to keep growing, because you can fix things when you're flying, but if you're not flying, you don't need to fix things. So, well, this is my view on it.
All right, it's risky, but I understand. It's kind of like if you're driving very fast, which obviously we haven't done, right? Well, only in Germany, because in Germany it's allowed, right? So you can like driving super fast and you get the tunnel vision, right? And the only way to kind of like stay safe is to be driving fast and very focused on what you do. If you take a look like for 1 second away from the road, you might have problems there, right? Okay, that's interesting. I had never heard this argument, and I think it's great. Obviously, coming from a bootstrap company, I'm never going to experience hyper growth mode, but like that's very interesting to have this sort of perspective. I was wondering, and now the second part of the question was when COVID happened, right? So how did that change the company culture? What was your reaction to it, and how it affected the company culture?
Well, in our case, affected a lot. So we were growing a lot, and with COVID, it creates a lot of uncertainty. So part of the growth of Jeff is have new entrepreneurs to create business with us. So if we don't have these entrepreneurs taking the risk to do it, we're going to grow less. Mm-hmm. And when you have this COVID situation, it's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. So we had to take some decisions to reduce part of the headcount, to spend less in growth. So how it was, I think, was very challenging. So it reduced our employee NPS. We have a culture very driving, but being together. So on purpose, maybe we have give 50 visas from people around the world to live in Valencia. Wow. All people were together working at one office. And our idea with that, so one guy from Guatemala is working with one guy from South Africa, desk to desk. And the idea of that is, okay, if you are growing, you have to have them together. If you're growing and them are not together, it will be worse because they are not sharing what they have in mind. So being together. So we try to focus with growth, being together, a strong culture, when we were improving processes and we were changing things. When COVID happened, we lost things. We lost the growth, we lost the parties or the physical events. And also, so problems appear. The good part is that we don't lose key employees for these 12 months, just one, because this always happens. You always have some attrition. Mm-hmm. But it has been very, very challenging, to be honest with you, because we lose what makes us different. We create something different on purpose. And when you bet on it and then you don't have it, why I'm going to work for you?
Yeah, and also it seems to me that your company and the way you work, I don't know, that's from external point of view, you have been a very strong pack, a very strong core, very tight knit and everything. And now being remote, maybe that gets lost a little bit, that gets diluted a little bit just because, company culture revolving around being physical, being in the same space doesn't work in remote and the other way around, right? So how did you adapt to the reality of working from home, actually?
We adapt, but we are not as good as we were. So the truth is that we adapt. So we have possible remote work before, and even people can work some days from home. We're since COVID started, we decided, I think 10 days after, we are going to be flexible company. What does it mean flexible? That you can decide to work from now until end of your time with us remotely, or you can go through the office. And in fact, we are going to open a new office in 1 month from now.
Nice.
Wow. Why? Because we think that physical interaction is needed at one point. We think that remote is a choice, and for many people can work, but also we think that our values and our cultures are more powerful than when we are together. So we adapted, we have changed everything to be remote, but we are going to keep betting on how try to make appealing to work at least 1 day per week or 1 day each 20 days, or even if you are leaving other country, just fly for the quarter or fly together for the monthly event, something like that, something to create community, something that a lot about it. But for us, community was very related with physical presence, and we have been not that good to do it online.
Also, your company is very physical because, actually, we've been speaking for an hour, for half an hour. We haven't said anything about your company, but
this is
because
good,
because we understand that everybody in the Spanish startup ecosystem knows Jeff right now. Otherwise, they have been living under a rock for the last few years, right? But basically, if I remember maybe I don't remember the whole life cycle, right? But when you started, it was Mr. Jeff. It was a laundry franchises chain. Then you evolved sort to a omni-channel ecosystem of day-to-day services. I don't know how to describe it. So how did that transition happen? And actually, I think most people couldn't use your services when there was the full lockdown, right? Because you were not allowed to have your cleaner or whatever over at your place for some weeks or even months, right? So how was that product evolution? And prior to the pandemic, then let's going to cover the pandemic.
Sure. So at Jeff, what we're doing is trying to solve daily needs of our end customers, empowering entrepreneurs to create successful businesses. We have today 4 business lines that are laundry, beauty, fitness, and relax. And we operate 42 markets, Europe, Latam, Southeast Asia, Northern Africa, and Western Europe. And now we're entering into US and Central Europe. We started with laundry. We started as a pure marketplace. So we started connecting laundry stores with end customers. At one point, we step into the logistic, and then we evolve it into a new model that's a digital franchise. So what we realized that we really want to change the quality, we really want to create an amazing experience for the end consumer, we want to change it from scratch, so from the supply side. So we started to create the business in a box, empowering entrepreneurs to create the business with us. And this has been quite challenging because of COVID, because in some countries like Peru or Brazil or even Mexico, we were not able to offer the service for entrepreneurs. So it has been very challenging for most of them to keep operating. Physical location has been very affected. And even in some markets, 50 or 80% of our orders are online. You have to deliver from somewhere. So it was quite challenging for us in many markets. So we help our entrepreneurs. For almost 6 months, we don't charge them for our product. So we did a lot of things to try to help our entrepreneurs, and we keep doing it to help them to survive these challenging times.
And actually, this is the topic of the conversation for today was lift as you climb, right? Because it seems that your company grows as you are enabling other entrepreneurs to create their business, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how you really, because you mentioned the concept of like company in a box. I don't know how you mention it. And you have actually signed an agreement to give 20 million grants, right? Can you clarify this a little bit more? How can actually like some entrepreneurs profit or work with you in that regard?
So Jeff allow people to start businesses with us. So we're always looking how to help entrepreneurs to create businesses with us. So from the laundry, beauty, fit, and relax concepts and new ones that we will add. Well, part of the growth of the company and also the product improvements will rely on our ability to grow. Why? If you look at traditional franchise models, you have the biggest ones and the small ones. Biggest ones have been for 50, 60 years in the markets. The small ones, they are almost national concentration, and they are not offering a product. They are offering know-how, but not a technology product. So they are not offering tech. They're just offering a brand and a know-how. What Jeff has been doing different is no, the core is the product, and then we have the other things. So we are a franchise because of law. It's compulsory by law to be a franchise, but not because we like franchise model. And so we are very focused on how to democratize that. And this is why we launched this program with the scholarships, 20 million. So we are helping now the entrepreneurs to start the business with less investment. So before was 60,000 euros to start a business with us, for example, in Spain. But part of this investment is just to remodel the location. So this is almost 45,000. So now we get a deal with a real estate agency that what they're doing is they are acquiring the property, remodeling and renting. And this cost of remodeling is not being charged to the entrepreneur. So now the entrepreneur can start a business between 15 to 20,000 euros with us. So it's cheaper to start a business now with us than do it by your own, because the remodeling will be a cost. So all the time we are focusing on how to make it easier, to start a business, how to make it cheaper, how to be easier. So the product guides you through the process, helps you through the process. So all these things are helping us to get the scale. When we have the scale, we can improve, we can put more SaaS on the product side. So just to give you a sense, typical franchise model invest 3% of their revenues, improve the product. Jeff, 40% of the revenues is for improve the product. So we are betting more than no one in the industry to have a better product, a better service. And if we have more scale, we have more resources, and we have a better product. So it's a flywheel. If we have more entrepreneurs, we have a better product, we have a better customer experience, we have more entrepreneurs, more product, better customer experience.
So it seems that you are becoming a platform for this kind of, you don't want to call it franchises, but let's make it easy to understand for the audience, right? So how far can this go, right? So how much can this scale with your current team? How many product changes do you need to go if you need to incorporate a different kind of service there, right? Let's say you want to open a franchise for like restaurants or escape rooms or something like that, right? So how much do you need to put, like, how much effort do you need to put to accommodate a new business line, for instance?
So you have to think as like the Shopify or the Omnichannel locations or the Salesforce for the CRM. So we are building the platform that will allow Omnichannel business to grow. So we have a program called Scale Up, where we meet with, for example, with which one is the best coffee shop chain in the world. Do they want to scale with us? So we have a platform ready for them to plug into us and they scale together. So the same way, for example, into our platform, entrepreneurs can access to a digital marketing agency to launch the marketing campaigns with them. But you can also buy your products, your detergents, your plastic through our platform. So we're connecting new business lines into the platform, and also we are adding value to the platform to connect entrepreneurs to it. So we want to be the end-to-end solution for entrepreneurs who wants to start a business with guidance in which of our business lines, always verticalized. So sky is the limit. Shopify is doing this just with digitalizing part of the business, but 80% of the business is still offline. So we have 5 times more opportunity than what Shopify is doing today. And is one of the biggest companies in the world. So it's a product challenge because it's an end-to-end solution, but also the good thing of what we have, because we are closed business in a box solution, we have the data. So we can improve the experience, we can improve the product in other horizontal softwares, you have not this value. So a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities.
Great. Let's take a couple questions from the audience, because I think that some of them are really interesting. One of them comes from a fellow Valencian, Pablo Hernandez. You might know him. What is the key metric for Jeff? What's the North Star you look to every morning to know that Jeff is on the right path?
Today, new entrepreneurs.
Wow. All right. So that's not actually, because that's related to your metrics of like revenue and active clients. And I assume that there's not a lot of churn in this kind of, once they are with you, it's not easy to cut off ties with you, right?
Well, you have to have value. You know, it could be a bunch of other ones. So we have operative entrepreneurs who are already in break-even, entrepreneurs who are already buying the second location. So, you know, it's a lot of KPIs, you know, orders. But if you ask me about one, it's new entrepreneurs, because of the rationale behind. If I have more new entrepreneurs, I will have a better product because I will have more resources to invest. And second thing that's very important in our product, everything is Jeff branded. So one thing that we have learned, for example, in Mexico City, the key is to have more entrepreneurs. If we have more entrepreneurs in Mexico City, we will keep decreasing the cost of acquisition of the user for the entrepreneur. When we started, from now, it's 5 times cheaper for a new entrepreneur with Jeff to acquire a new consumer. Why? Because of the brand recognition out there. So, you know, the flywheel of the dynamic is more brand awareness, better product, better result for the end entrepreneur. More entrepreneurs, better product.
Yeah, which normally, you know, as companies become platforms, like in your case, they tend to lower the entry barriers for new players on their platform, because obviously you profit from growth, and the more you grow, then you can, you know, you can give them more value and better service and more technology and whatnot. But at a certain point, which is like, you know, kind of like Amazon or Spotify, for instance, that they turn it around and actually they start to squeeze every single profit from every player on their platform, just because they don't need them anymore. And there's a, you know, you can still squeeze them a little bit more, milk them a little bit more, because, you know, you've got them locked and they will not go away easily. And even if a few leave, you can still make a lot of profit, right? So that's when I think that growth corrupts the model, right? How are you going to avoid this? Or is it too soon for you?
Well, I think it's a very good question. So being more scalable than them. So
all right,
even it looks
more scalable than Amazon and Shopify or Spotify.
No, let me go to the point and try to explain why I say that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
For example, of Spotify, right? So it's the music industry, and it's streaming music. It's a big market, okay, but it has a cap. And at the end consumer is paying a fixed fee. So when the end consumer is paying a fixed fee, well, you have to play with that. With Amazon, the value add is cheaper and faster. So you have to squeeze. So the business model of these companies is based to squeeze margins. Is the only way to make a profit at one point. In our case, it's completely different. We have a monthly fixed fee to our entrepreneurs. If they make more money, good for them. It's good for them. We don't want to make more money here. Why?
Yeah.
Because we are not making money on the end consumer like Spotify or Amazon. We are more like Shopify. We are making the infrastructure for them. We want them to have more business, but we don't need to take the last penny of that. And also because we are not just in laundry, beauty, fitness, we're also adding more and more verticals. But the main reason for me is, one is market, so it's just bigger market. And second, we're not making the profit for the end consumer. So we don't need to make more money there.
That's a very good point, and I think that kind of like answers the question. Another question from the audience, from Anna this time, and it's very related to what we were discussing early on in the conversation about the pandemic, right? The first days. But you, more than any other company, might have had very privileged information about when the services stopped, when they resumed in certain different geographic areas and regions, just because you've got the technology visualization, right? So how did you notice, the difference of service requests during the pandemic and the evolution? And did you use this information as an advantage to predict what was going to happen?
Very good point. So first, because we have operation in Southeast Asia, we were very aware about the COVID situation. In fact,
Good point.
Almost 2 weeks before lockdown, we decided to send people home.
Wow.
Because we know that what was coming.
That's smart.
And then we tried to see what's working before in Southeast Asia, and then try to replicate it to the rest of the countries. The truth, what we have seen is that online growth and offline decrease, in most of the markets decrease. And also the people were very afraid to have services. Then we see a trend, with more related with hygiene, like laundry services, or just show that your products are safe for the end consumers. And other thing that we have seen is in countries now that vaccination is going faster. It's incredible how the customer behavior is changing. So you can see in these countries a change of mentality. They are now very pushing to the business, very pushing to use services. They want to enjoy life. And this is something that we are seeing already. So countries that are going fast with vaccination, we are seeing a different trend there.
How about let's go back to business, because I think there's another question that you raised earlier in the conversation, and I think it's very important, because we think it's easy, but it's not, because everybody says you got to go to the US. The US, it's a market that's easy to penetrate from here. Everybody buys stuff in the US, right? However, I don't think it's that easy, right? Because there's a lot. It's also like pretty fragmented, even though like it's a huge market, but every state works independently. They have their own laws. They have like their own preferences. That's not as regulated as Europe, but it's also not that homogeneous, right? And I don't know, there's a lot of competition. All the world wants to go there. What difficulties are you finding in expanding to the US?
Well, it has been for us a nightmare to launch in the US.
How so?
Because we are very regulated business in the US. So we are almost like a financial service. A franchise in the US is very tough. And you have to go state by state, and it's very difficult. In New York, it's almost impossible to make it. So it's a very, very, very legislated business. It has been very tough. We have put resources there. We have invested a lot of money already. And now we are seeing the first results. Decide to go there for us was like a big opportunity. It's a country. If you look at Shopify numbers, for example, in the online industry, 70% of the customers are from the US and 15% from Canada. So 85% of the business is there. Yeah. Well, if you look about how many people is becoming entrepreneur in the US and Canada, is much higher than the rest of the world. So for us, business was clearly them. But then you always have this mentality of, wow, I'm European, have no idea about US. I'm sure that will be much better products than our product. How to address that? So you have a problem of, okay, am I good enough to be there or not really? So we have to fight with that, and we don't know yet if we're going to be good enough or not. But we're very, very, very happy with the movement. It has been 1 year to have everything ready, and now that we're closing some important partnerships there, what we are seeing is that things move much faster there, and with more ambition than in Europe.
Okay, what kind of team do you need to deploy operations of a company like Jeff in the US, and how big of a budget did you initially scope for this?
So budget, a lot. So to launch US,
6 figures, 7 figures.
Yes, close to a million. To
all right.
Just to launch.
Just to launch. All right.
Just to launch. Then this year will be close to 3 million. What we're going to invest just to have a bit of footprint there. So when we launch a country, we don't need a physical team there. We have everything created to don't need a physical team in the country. But for the US case, we are going to allocate a physical team there. So my co-founder, Adrian, is moving there. And also part of key employees are moving there next month. And we have a squad working with this since the beginning. So the squad is close to 10 people with different roles. And the team that will be there in the US, it's almost close to 10 also. So we're beating really hard in the US.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time. They say that it's kind of like it's difficult to make the first steps because you need to get like everything right. And I don't know, like some states are more permissive than others, but you need to be prepared to go really fast because once you're given the green light, you need to go very fast because it's very expensive. So it's not so much about the initial setup cost. It's about that. It's about the fact that every day there is a lot of money for you as a company. So you better make a profit the earlier possible, because otherwise you're just burning money like a motherfucker, right?
That's it. You have to create a lot of business there. But the good thing there is if you are willing to play hard, is the opportunity. Is what we are seeing. We are doing some deals in the States, but I think it will be impossible to do it in the rest of the world. Maybe in China, but I don't have experience that. So, yep, you're very positive.
And how about like, did you use any? What kind of contacts help you to land there? Right? Was it your investors? Was it your lawyers? Was it a specialized firm or agency that took you to the US, or was it you did it internally?
We did internally. We trust in people who has been with us for a long time. Yeah, we had some external people with some experience in the industry, but we did it everything internally. Then we have some lawyers, some help, but everything internally. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty interesting. I understand that a lot of people in your team have got previous experience in doing similar things, because otherwise it can be like pretty confusing, especially in the US. That you have to know a lot about not only regulations, but it's about like having a network there. A lot of the things in the US is like, knowing the right person, and because that can save you a lot of time, and just working with the right providers once you arrive to a place, right? Let's move into the last part of the fireside chat. I want to move to more like off topic questions to get to know you a little bit better. The first one is one that I haven't asked in like 3 years, but it was a really good question that we had from the very first events. It's like, if you met your 18-year-old self, if you saw yourself with 18 years, like what would you recommend yourself to do differently? From all we've done, not only Jeff, like what are the things that you would just do differently from there?
Be always yourself and be humble, but not think that because it comes from the outside will be better. So right. I think these two things. I had a lot of fun in university, and I always keep having a lot of fun doing what we are doing. Why are you doing these parties? Because we want. We don't care about what people think about these parties. We like it. We think it's important. We do it. And at one point, what people will think, what investors will think, I don't care. And I think it has been the best thing that we have done it. And also with my experience, it's always a lot of ways to do things, a lot of paths. And sometimes because, this other company, because these guys come from McKinsey or come from Amazon and they're amazing, they told us to do this, we should do this because we have no idea. You have to be humble. But if you think it's the other way, let's go with the other way. So each time that I was humble but not decide about myself, I did wrong.
That's very interesting. I thought that when you said that external things are not always better, I thought that you would have some sort of like imposter syndrome where you think like, oh, I don't know enough, I'm going to hire somebody to do this because I'm not good enough, right? But no, it's interesting because normally we think that, yeah, certain companies have got a brand and they will do it better. Kind of like lawyers, for instance, right? Sometimes like, oh, I'm going to hire a lawyer for this because they will not fuck up. And then they fuck up, right? It's like, dude, even I could have done that better, right? So yeah, that's a really good point. So it's kind of like, our mutual friend Mark Vicente says, it's like trust but verify, right? I don't know if that's something that you also follow your day-to-day but I think that's pretty important. Like you can leverage external providers or whatever, but like trust them but not blindly, right? Or even like sometimes
I think
investors.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point because at one point you say, okay, I have no experience. The people have done it. Well, yes, but it's not the same company. It's not the same concept. Most of the times they will be right, but you have to feel comfortable, not just do it because they tell you to do it.
All right. What's say something that where you personally you have fucked up in the story of the company and you would do it again the same way? You would say like, I'm gonna do it again this way.
That I fuck up.
Yeah, something you did like it went wrong, but you're proud of the fact that it went wrong because either you learn or it created a side project or it enabled other people to work on something else. Or
we have a very good one. So when we were with the beginning of Jeff with laundry part, okay, working as a marketplace. At one point we saw, okay, if we want to really improve quality, we have to create a facility out of the city. And I get into the guys who are responsible for the pressing for Inditex. Mm-hmm. And I convinced the guys to invest in a factory for us of 5 million. Mm-hmm. It took me, I don't know how many meetings, how many discussions, very, very smart guys, I was exhausted to do this. And finally, we didn't do it because we decided to go with this business in a box concept. So we avoid the facility. Right. So maybe I waste, 6 months of my life doing this.
Good point.
Because at this moment, I thought that was the right decision. But at one point, no, this is not. We have to change. And, it's tough. When you have it done, you have the agreement. Yeah. No, it's not the right way. So I love it because, I was dedicated enough to bring the deal. And the same way it was enough humble to say, it's the easiest path, but it's not the right path. And now, when we look about the companies who have done it, we are much bigger than them. We are much more successful than them. So, okay, we were right, but it was a tough decision, after 6 months of work. But I learned a lot during the process about the industry, about the business. And then I applied all of this that I have learned into create the business in a box concept.
Then congratulations, hats off, because normally, the concept of sunken cost fallacy, right? You're so deep into the project that, I've already invested 6 months into this. Maybe it's not the right thing, but I'm going to do it just because I've been working for 6 months, right? But you had the balls to say like, fuck it. I'm going to go for something different. Wow, that's really impressive. So congratulations on that. Another quick question, and we're about to wrap it up, is as a CEO, right? From CEO to CEO here, from founder to founder, I find it hard to prioritize or to let go of things that I am doing nowadays that I know I shouldn't be doing because somebody else can do them better or cheaper or in a more efficient way. But I find it hard as a CEO to let go of the things I've been doing for such a long time, just because maybe I didn't have the budget, or I've been doing them just because, it's the blog. I created the blog of the company. I'm going to be blogging forever. Dude, you're the CEO. Like at a certain point, you cannot blog every week, right? Bring in somebody from marketing. How do you take this decision?
That's a very good question, but I always try to do as less as possible. So when I start my week, it's okay, let's do less things. So I try to ask myself, okay, let's do less things. And then I have a sprint very detailed with tasks. Then I evolve to a sprint where I have 5 points and I want to focus on these 5 things. And now it's 3. So I try to do less things all the time. How can I do this without being me involved? So, and this stuff, because sometimes you really enjoy. But okay, but this is not my business. So all the time trying to ask me this question. And one part that it was tough for me to let it go at the beginning was the hiring side. So I really enjoy interviewing. I love this part. And at one point you have to understand, okay, I cannot be involved in all of these decisions, or about the sales strategy to new entrepreneurs. Yeah, but I cannot be involved here. Or the product, this is the best part of the business, when you are working with a product for an entrepreneur. Well, but I have my Carlos, that's amazing. So why I'm going to be bothered there? Okay, I have my one-to-one, but I don't need to be involved in this. So, well, it's tough, because you end doing what you don't like, but that's what the company needs.
I think that there's a really good quote that I always bring up in these kind of conversations, which is that the life as a CEO is 90% of the time doing the things that he or she should do, and 10% the things that he or she likes doing, which I think it's like 99 versus 1%, or maybe I'm doing it wrong, right? But I totally understand. It's a very good point. I'll try, maybe I'll do it next week. I'll try to go over all my tasks and see how can I do all of this without me ever getting involved, right? So because maybe then you find the ones that you really need to be involved, right? In hiring, it's very complicated for a CEO at a certain point, because in hiring, you need to be in every meeting with a lot of candidates. You don't have time for all of that if you need to be on strategy or investor relationships or sales or things like that, right? So you need to really focus.
You have to be very flexible, I think. So one week, your top priority could be this, and next week could be the other one, and Tuesday could be one thing, and Thursday could be other one. I think the key is the flexibility to understand, okay, now this quarter I will do. This quarter, the company has these objectives, and you will do what the company needs you to do. So,
correct. Yeah, and it's they always say that the planning is essential, but plans are useless. It's great to have this strategic mindset, but once you enter the battlefield, everything changes, right? Okay, last question, and we can wrap it up here because you've been super generous with your time. We really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the conversation, but we've got a signature question. Everybody gets to answer the most difficult question ever at Startup Grind, which is, everybody has got a useless superpower, not a useful superpower. It's something that you do exceptionally well, but it's fucking useless. It's like, why do I do this for? It's like, why was I grown with this gift, right? Like, I'm not using this for anything positive, right? What is yours?
Well, maybe you will be disappointed about mine, but without apps, I can move the finger this way.
Are you that kind of person?
Yeah, I can do it.
I know one person like that. So I'm pretty sure you're the only.
The same with my shoulder. I can just move it out. So.
That's expensive. The thing with the thumb, I mean, obviously I cannot do it, but not a lot of people can do that. It's like that's one of the best useless superpowers examples that we've ever seen, and that's a very good one. So you nail it, because sometimes people are like, I'm too organized. It's like, dude, this is not a job interview. Cut the bullshit, right? I'm too optimistic. Like, fuck that shit. Oh, this is really good. Oh my God, this is really good. I think that we can wrap it up here. We got 1 minute. 1 minute for you. You got this camera, these entrepreneurs. How can we help you? What do we need to know about Jeff? What do we need to know about Eloi? All yours. So the stage is yours.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here first. And second,
thank you.
If you want to start a business, if you want to create something new, we are here to help. We have the opportunities. We have product for you. Many people is losing their jobs now. We have an opportunity to create a business together. When you're creating a business, you're thinking long term. We're creating a brand for long term, and we have the best product in the market. And also we have the mentality. We are a company that is going to be here for a long, long time. And all of our efforts, all of what we're building is to help our customers and our entrepreneurs. And we are going to keep doing that for a long time.
That is a kick-ass message and a good way to wrap it up here. So thank you very much. Thank you, Eloi. Thank you, all the people at Jeff who made this possible. Thank you, Marc Vicente. Shout out to Marc Vicente, who made the connection and who was too shy to be here having a conversation with you and I. He said like, oh no, I don't want to steal your thunder. You guys do it alone. And he's hiding in the YouTube people. But anyways, he was our very first speaker at Startup Grind Barcelona. So great, fantastic person. And thank you, everybody.